Hey, what's good, y'all? You heard that smooth jazz intro. So now you know it is time for the Focus LBK show. This is your brother Robert Jenkins coming to you. This is episode, I believe it's 93. I'm terrible with these episodes. I'm terrible with dates. I'm terrible with episodes. But I think this is episode 93. And what we're going to talk about today, I want to give y'all a brief after action report, so to speak, about the Juneteenth celebrations. In case some of y'all are unaware, I was honored to be able to give a brief little speech over at Patterson. And I'm going to actually play that speech as part of this interview. So after my remarks here, I'll put that speech on. But I also wanted to touch on the whole Trump and Iran situation. So we're going to talk a little bit about freedom, a little bit about Juneteenth, and a little bit about this whole Trump and Iran situation. Let's get to Juneteenth first and do a hot wash of that. When I was in the military, we used to call our after action reports a hot wash. You sit down and it's like after you've been in theater and your trucks and vehicles and equipment is all dirty, you come back and do a hot wash and get it all clean and see what falls off of it. So we're doing a hot wash or a recap of Juneteenth. So in my speech over at Patterson Library, one of the things that I talked about was some of the responsibilities of freedom. And what I really talked about, I called the speech the first 4 lessons of freedom, because I read the actual general order, the executive order, essentially, that General Gordon Granger read to the people of Galveston that were assembled there when he touched down and with his 2,000 troops or so. So read that general order, and reading that general order, there was a lesson in that. I'm also reading a book called Barracoon, by the story of the last black cargo, of the last black human cargo. It's by Zora Neale Hurston. And y'all are no doubt familiar with Zora Neale Hurston. Oh, her book, Their Eyes Were Watching God. Man, that book is exquisite. I read that in college, and that book is so good. It's one of those situations or those experiences in life that I wish I could take back. I wish I could go in my mind and remove all memory of reading that book. Why? That sounds paradoxical. I say it's a great book, but I wish I could remove all memory of reading it. Why? Because it was so good that the pleasure I experienced at reading that book the first time was so great, but you can only get it once. That book was so good, I read it all the way cover to cover in one sitting. And like the autobiography of Malcolm X, I think I turned around and read it again. Like the autobiography of Malcolm X, I read it. I started reading it like after school, like on a Friday one day in high school. And I read it all night. Didn't even go to sleep till like 6 a.m. And I read the whole book. This is a thick book too. I was like, that was exquisite. So I went to sleep. And I woke up. And when I woke up, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X again, cover to cover. So I read it twice in one weekend. That's how good it was. Well, this Zora Neale Hurston book, Their Eyes Were Watching God, was just that good too. I read it one time all the way through, and I think like a couple days later, like the next weekend, I read it again all the way through. And it's not that thick of a book, but it's great. It's a great story. And it turns out she wrote that book in like, I think she said 6 weeks. She wrote a masterpiece in 6 weeks. Anyway, the book that we're really talking about, though, aside from Their Eyes Are Watching God, which everybody and their mom has probably read, one of Zora Neale Hurston's lesser-known books is called Barracoon, the story of the last black human cargo. And it concerns, just like you think, a black African man his name in America was Cujo Lewis. I forget. I'm not sure. He might have had a different name in Africa. They named him Cujo Lewis over here. So anyway, in this book, Barracoon, which you can find pretty readily available. It's kind of cheap. It's real thin. It's not very thick. Pretty good reading, though. Typical Zora Neale Hurston, she writes in the dialect of the people who are speaking. So some people find that interesting. I do. I kind of like to see the dialect of African people at that time in history, and really of this time in history. We still speak in dialects, if you know what I mean. But anyway, it tells the story of this gentleman who was kidnapped illegally, because see, the United States outlawed slavery. I forget the exact year, but before 1865, when the Civil War ended and they completely abolished slavery, they actually outlawed importing slaves. Now, if you had some, you could keep them, but it was illegal to go back to Africa and get more. So for some reason, this dude in this book named Captain, oh man, his name is escaping me, but the captain in the book, it'll come to me in a moment, Captain Tom Meeher, I think his name was. Anyway, he, for some reason, even though it was illegal to go so-called purchase African people at this point in time in America, he and his crew decided to go do it anyway. Just as almost like to see if they could. So they went over there and they got a crew, a small group of Africans or whatever, and they came back. And this book was about, it's very interesting because it tells the story. First of all, they went to Africa. It wasn't no kidnapping nobody. This is we get this from watching Roots, I guess, which I confess I've never watched all the way through. But I guess in Roots, they show them kidnapping Kunta Kinte or whoever from the motherland. Well, guess what? I'm sorry to have to tell you, that's not the way it happened. Africans believed in slavery. African kings, like the king of Dahomey, for example, made their living. Their kingdoms were wealthy because of slavery. There were colonialist African kingdoms who went out to their neighbors and kidnapped them in war, took captives, and came back and sold them. They went to war specifically to get slaves, and they did it specifically to sell slaves to Arabs and Europeans. Why? Because the Africans supported slavery. They made slaves of one another. They made slaves of us and sold us to Europeans. Europeans trying to settle a country at the time said, good, we'll take some. The Arabs were, people never bring this up, and we like to take Arab people's name. We like to be Malik El Haj Sabaz, Malcolm X, a.k.a. We like to name our kids Tariq and Mustafa and all that kind of stuff. But the Arabs were probably some of the greatest enslavers on the planet. And the Arabs took African slaves many more times, greater numbers of African slaves than did the Europeans. Also, little known, the Islamic slavers, Muslims, took huge numbers of European slaves. In fact, they took so many white slaves that the word that we say today, slave, comes from the word Slav. Y'all heard of Yugoslavia? That's how bad they was enslaved by the Muslims. They took so many white slaves that they name of their people became synonymous with the word for slave, the Slavs. You know, if you was a Slav, you really got impacted by slavery. So this book is very interesting on many fronts. And one of the things that I talked about, the first 4 lessons of freedom, is that you can't, well, I'm not going to tell you what they are because I'm going to play that video later. I think I got that video right here. So we're going to put it next. But it just goes to show, man, the history of slavery is not what we have been taught. I think a lot of people that I talk to seem to think that America was the only country that had slaves. That is incorrect. America was one of the last countries to have slaves. Britain and America, we don't like to admit it because we like to throw it in people's faces. Some people do. They like to throw slavery up and say, look what you did to us. Now give us money. You got to make up for it, even though they never were slaves and the people who they want the money from didn't ever have slaves. I think the slave owning class in this country was like 1% or 2% of the 1% or 2% of the whole population of America is all that ever actually owned slaves. And as I say, in the Muslim world, the Islamic world, they loved slavery. They had, I ain't gonna say billions of them, but they had way more slaves than America ever had. And they continued to do it even after America and Britain outlawed slavery. Britain was so serious that in around 1836, they outlawed slavery. I think the dude's name was, he was a clergyman named William Wilberforce, if I remember correctly. Him and his abolitionist movement ended slavery in Britain. And Britain was so deadly serious about ending slavery that they actually spent billions of dollars sending their navy around Africa and the Middle East, chasing down Muslim slave ships and making them free those Africans on those ships. America, they were taking so many white slaves around Libya, interestingly enough, that America had, I think it was under Thomas Jefferson, if I remember correctly, had to send the Navy, the fledgling U.S. Navy, to stop slavery over there because they was taking white folks slaves. And so he was allowing black slaves over here, but stopping them from taking white slaves. Okay, it's hypocrisy. But everybody involved in slavery were hypocrites. And it was not only the United States, it was not only Europeans. Again, some of the greatest slavers on the planet were black and brown. And in fact, in the places where I'm told that there still exists slavery to this day, they are solely black and brown countries. In Africa, Pakistan, other places, India, countries in Africa. Those are the places where I'm told, I've never been there to see with my own two eyes, but I read a lot, and it's reputable sources seem to say you can still buy slaves. I heard there was a comedian one time, a black comedian, talking about going to Africa and getting him a slave. You can still buy him, apparently. So isn't that something? Isn't that a thought? Isn't that a trip to think about right there? So I guess I said all that to say that as I mingled with the community out and about this past Juneteenth, I had those thoughts in my mind. First of all, a lot of people say how Texas was backwards because they didn't get the news till 2 years later about the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, it wasn't that Texas was so backwards. It was that they didn't have modern communications, and Texas was a Confederate state in rebellion. So of course they weren't going to allow Union forces to communicate freely within their territory. You don't allow an enemy the ability to do that during wartime. That's just, I mean, if you're having a war and you let your enemy talk to the people in your territory, that's just setting you up for failure. You know what I'm saying? Setting you up to have the enemy tell your story instead of you telling your own story. Anyway, so of course you can see that's why they didn't allow that news to spread. And also, just like I said, they had primitive communication methods. But you read that order, and I'm not going to read it here, but the executive order that they read about slavery was so instructive. And when I put that together with the book that I was reading, this book about the last human cargoes by Zora Neale Hurston, just had me thinking some particular thoughts as I walked around and made pictures for Juneteenth. And I will say I had a really good time. One thing I want to say, though, to all my brothers and sisters here in Lubbock that be doing these events and putting on stuff, Lord have mercy. Can we please schedule these things on different days? I had about 3 or 4 things to go to that day. And I'm glad that the Lord blessed me with the physical ability and the ability to have enough cameras and batteries and stuff to go take care of these events and cover them. But man, you see all this? You see all this gray right here? That's a young man game. I am not a spraying chicken. I say spraying. That's what my grandpa used to say. I ain't no spraying chicken. Y'all got me running around from this event to that event. Okay, I got myself running around from this event to that event. But still, Lord, let's put these things on different days, man. Jeez, man, for real. But no, it was fun covering this stuff. I started off, of course, at May Simmons, and I took made some pictures over there. Made some really good pictures. I love seeing our elders. And I was a little bit sad to see that some of our extreme elders, people who are like in their 90s, you can tell they're just a couple of years older than when I first met them. And it shows a little more, I think, because they're kind of up in age. So I felt a little bit sad to see that. But at the same time, I felt overjoyed to see them still getting around and still mobile and agile and making it do what it do out there, shaking their tail feather like everybody else. So that was a pleasure to see that. The pictures I made at May Simmons that morning, there's some pretty good snaps, I think. Pretty good images, pretty good frames that were exposed, as the photographers like to talk when they're talking to each other. So check those photos out. Of course, I'm gonna throw a link down here in the description, but I think you can just look on there and say it says images from Juneteenth 2025. The parade was a trip. Well, I'm gonna tell you something I really loved about the parade. Man, I love seeing black cowboys. I love seeing people of color unapologetically wearing cowboy boots and hats and Ariat shirts, looking sharp than a mug, riding actual horses with actual trailers on their actual pickup trucks. Actually looking like some real black cowboy. Ooh, I love that. That is exquisite to me. When I see that, I can't take enough pictures. And them 806 big steppers, I don't know. I feel like I don't know these, and don't get mad at me if I say this wrong, but I look at them and I look at the cowboys. They all was in the same area, and it looked like they was related. I felt like I was seeing a family over there, different parts of a big family. You know what I'm saying? If not, for y'all forgive me, but that's just what it looked like. And man, I tell you what, I just love seeing them 806 big steppers jamming with their hats and boots on. I can't do all that stepping stuff, man. I never could get that line dancing down. I just ain't good at following rules. He be saying step to the left and step to. I be like, yeah, something in me can't do it, man. I'm an independent cat. You know what I'm saying? I just can't be following instructions like that. But they show following them instructions. They be following them funky too, boy. They be jamming. Cowboy boots be looking good on their feet. Them hats they be having them just right on their head. I be like, love seeing them black cowboys. That stuff is gorgeous because that is a part of the history of the West. That is a part of the history of West Texas. It's a part of the history of the cowboy. Black people weren't just slaves. There were black people who were free and who were cowboys. There was Bass Reeves, who was free and who was a lawman. Nick, what was his name? Doggett, the guy that used to wrestle the steers, I think, with the biting their lip, doing the bulldog. Bill Doggett, I think his name was. Bill Daggett. Famous black rodeo king, cowboy. So I love seeing that still being reflected in our people today, man. That just fills me with adoration. I love the way they look. And I wish I could dress like that myself. Now, I could dress like that, but honestly, I don't like to. I wouldn't want to do it because I'm not being true to myself. I'm not a cowboy. I wasn't raised that way. My folks is country, but we wasn't cowboys. We was laborers, you know what I'm saying? We used to pick and pull cotton, and we were farm hands and mechanics and stuff like that. So we weren't cowboy and cow hands on a ranch. So like I say, I feel like I can't rock that stuff authentically. Now I'm a Texan, so I can rock it from that aspect, but I just can't. Yeah, I just wouldn't feel right. Y'all know what I'm talking about? So that's another reason I love to see people who do it, and you can tell they do it too. You can tell it ain't no show. These cats are not all hat, no cattle. These cats is all hat and all cattle and all horses, trailers, all living in the country, all riding them horses and caring for them. You can tell they cowboys. You can tell by the way they move and just look, how comfortable they look on it. I got a picture of some young cats. It looked like they was about 4, riding 2 of them on a horse, riding. Knew what they was doing. Just looking like, yeah, what's up? I say, love that. Love that. They're going to make me break down and go to the Houston Rodeo next year. I used to go to the one in San Antonio a couple times. I say used to. I went there a couple times. It was cool. I saw some black cowboys. I really want to make more pictures of these black cowboys. Hey, if any of y'all black cowboys is listening in the LBK and surrounding areas, man, hit your boy up. 806-642-0949. Hit me up and tell me, you can send me a text and say, we're going to be riding horses next Saturday at so-and-so. And so I will be there with camera in hand, for real. I want to catch that. That's gorgeous, man. I love it. I don't want to keep on going about it. I could just keep talking about that all day. Y'all be like, this dude been talking about black cowboys for an hour and a half. I wish he'd talk about something else. I don't even want to talk about nothing else because honestly, the next thing that happened this past weekend, in addition to all that Juneteenth stuff, of course, Trump hit Iran with what seemed to be some inconsequential missile strikes. They said, we took out Iran's nuclear program. My understanding, reading the sources that I like to read that seem to be right more often than wrong, though that was a staged event almost. They told them where they was going to hit. They told them when they was going to hit. Satellite images showed that the Iranians moved all their stuff out of the Fort Owl and Natanz, all the various nuclear sites. Satellite images show what appear to be dump trucks moving the stuff out days before, weeks before, and dump trucks filling them in with dirt so they won't get really damaged. I don't know the truth behind any of that because I wasn't there. I do have, like I say, usually my sources that I read they're usually more accurate than the TV, CNN and Fox. If you watching CNN and Fox, what was it? Benjamin Franklin, the founding father, was it Thomas Jefferson? One of them said people who read newspapers, or in this case, watch TV news. I'm a butcher the quote, but basically, you misinformed, uninformed, and you really just come away being confused. That's not how Benjamin Franklin said it, obviously. But I say that because that is what I saw in my military career in intelligence. is that the stuff they talk about on the news is usually not even close to what actually happened. And that appears to be the case here. I don't know for sure, though. But I will say I'm just fairly disgusted with Trump. And I'm fairly disgusted because, first of all, I'm not the kind of person that hates somebody just because you tell me to. So just because the news say I'm supposed to hate Trump don't mean I'm going to hate him. I don't love Trump neither. The news say, some people say just love everything he do is right. He MAGA. Yeah, I want to make America great. I feel like America is a great country, and I feel like we have lost some of it messing around. Part of the reason why we have lost the greatness that we may have had at one time is because we always overseas chasing these silly, no, they're not inconsequential. They're momentously consequential military entanglements, but they are utterly and completely fool's errands. The Middle East has been fighting for centuries. And just as long as the Middle Eastern tribes have been fighting each other, Western powers have been intervening in those wars. And we haven't gotten anything. But let me rephrase that. When I say we, I mean regular people like me and you, your mama and your cousin too. y'all know that outcast. We don't get nothing out of that. The people on both sides of the political spectrum that constantly advocate this overseas military interventionism, they do get something out of it. They get money and power. I'm thinking all these rap songs, money and the power, money and the power, money and the power. All my old school ghetto boys heads. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That's what they get. They get money and the power. What do we get? High gas prices and arms and legs blew off. Burns over 80% of our body. I was in the military. I saw stuff like that. I don't want to see it no more. We don't ever get nothing from these wars. Regular people like us benefit from peace and stability. So that's why I say I'm disgusted with Trump. Why are we fighting Israel's wars? This appears to be something that Israel wanted us to do. Why are we fighting Israel's wars? Why are we giving Israel money and military aid? Why are we giving Ukraine money and military aid? What does that have to do with making America great again? Nothing at all. So what I saw this past weekend, I didn't even get to hear about it on the day it happened because y'all know me, I'm out slinging these cameras. I'm out here slinging cameras at this at the 100 Black Men event. I didn't see no news all day. Juneteenth and that event. Like I said, y'all need to put these on different days, brothers, if we can, brothers and sisters. But anyway, so disgusted and disappointed. All it proves, though, is what I have long since known is why I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a libertarian. Now, I will tell you right now that the Libertarian Party is a joke, but libertarian principles are the only principles out there to me, political principles, economic principles, that make sense. The party it's not even a funny joke. It's not even a bad, it's just a sour joke, the Libertarian Party. But the libertarian principles are the universal truths as far as I can tell. And that is like, for example, the first thing is ownership of private property is top of the thing. The reason that's important is because you are your own first form of private property. You own yourself. You own all your labor. You own the fruit of your mind and the fruit of your hands and the fruit of your back. Everything that you produce is yours first. Another libertarian principle is that all taxation is theft. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't want, for example, none of my tax money going to Israel, Ukraine, Uganda, Yugoslavia. I don't want nothing. Don't pay nobody no money. Why are we paying other countries money? If you claim to be a country, pay your own way. That's like being an adult, but you borrowing everybody else's money. People that ain't even got money. People that struggling themselves, and you walk around with your hand out so you can fight somebody. Get away from me with that. You can get. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandma used to say, well, you can get with that. I don't owe you nothing. And that's why I say taxation is theft. That's why I wholeheartedly believe it. They're taking my money that I need, dropping bombs on a country I can't even find on the map. Half the people out there talking about these wars and stuff, I guarantee they can't find these countries on the map. We support Ukraine. Point Ukraine out on the map. You can't. Tell me a little bit about the recent history of Ukraine. You can't. You don't even know that in 2014, the United States overthrew, Yanukovych, who was a neutral guy and didn't want to mess with NATO or Russia. He just wanted to make Ukraine great again, basically. We came in there. I say we. They came in there. You know how they be talking about they. Who is they? The CIA, the State Department, Victoria Nuland, Barack Obama. That's who went in there and overthrew Yanukovych, I think that dude's name was, and put in this cat Zelensky, who, by the way, in case you didn't know, was a freaking comedian the week before he suddenly became the president. He was claimed to fame was playing the piano with one of his parts. I ain't gonna say this is a family show. I'll just leave it at that. So this is the fool we sending billions of dollars to. Why? That's theft. Give me my money back. I don't support that. You over here talking about Iran got nuclear bombs or they gonna have them soon. I was looking, doing a little reading with some of my sources, not Fox News, not CNN, real analysts who know what they talking about. They were showing how they've been, what's his name? Netanyahu been saying Iran is 2 steps away from the bomb for like 40 years now. Literally 30 or 40 years, they've been saying they're 1 step away from the bomb. They're going to have the bomb within the month, within the year, within the week. Going back to like 1990 or 80 something. They playing us. Giving them, blowing up they so-called nuclear sites. How is that making America great again? Like I say, I'm just pure OD disgusted because this whole thing, that's why I'm a libertarian, because both of them sides are fake, false, and play together. They get rich on the red side and the blue side. It's the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins. They get up on and give us the illusion of battling before and looking for control. But then they ain't fighting each other. The only thing they fighting over is who gets to actually be in power and make the decisions about where the money goes and where the bombs drop. That's what they fighting over. Fighting over who get to steal my tax money and your tax money and everybody else's tax money while not listening to the stuff that we say. The whole country overwhelmingly disapproves of this whole Iran fiasco. You know, they started Iran back in 1953. That's one of the first things the CIA did was go in there and overthrow the elected president of Iran. Dude named, I think his name was Mohammed Mossadegh. Overthrew him. It was Kermit Roosevelt, President Roosevelt's great grandson or somebody like that. Went in with the State Department, the CIA, overthrew Mohammed Mossadegh in Iran and put in the Shah, who was a brutal dictator. That's why Iran got beef with us. Iran don't got beef with us because they just hate America. They got beef with us because we overthrew their elected president, put in a brutal dictator, and stole their oil. That's what we did. All that on behalf of, was it British Petroleum, BP? Or might have been another oil company. I'm thinking of stuff I haven't read about in years, but I think it was BP, British Petroleum, wanted that Iranian oil, and Iran said, nah, we gonna nationalize the oil and keep that money ourselves. And Britain said, what? No, you ain't. Hey, America, let's go, me and you overthrow Iran. Take they oil and gas. You know what I'm saying? That's why they hate us. Y'all seen a pattern here, by the way? How many times do we have to get a fake threat about weapons of mass destruction and then go overthrow a Middle Eastern country that haven't laid a finger on us with the supposed threat that, oh, they're going to use nuclear weapons of mass. They ain't got no weapons of mass destruction. Our intelligence has been saying since who knows how long, for 30 years now, that they're not building a bomb. I don't care what Trump motivation was, what his motive, what is behind. I don't care what kind of deal he trying to make. That right there, dog, you a phony. You a fake. You just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't play politics. Cause I don't like being made to feel like Boo Boo the Fool. You know what I'm saying? I don't support people that continually lie to me, no matter what color they suit is. What color tie they wearing, a blue or red? I want you to leave me alone, leave my money alone, stop stealing my money in taxes, stop stealing. You know what? You know, by the way, let's tie this into Juneteenth and slavery. Do you know what it is when people steal your money? When people force you, because a lie is force, by the way. When people force you to work but then take the fruit of your labor, that's called slavery. I thought we just celebrated the end of slavery in Texas. It's called slavery when politicians lie to you about what they're doing and then take your money and use it for stuff you don't want it used for. That's stealing your labor. That's forcing you to work for something that you don't get the benefit of. That right there is the definition of slavery. That's why I can't stand none of these clowns. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man, I need to take a breath. I need to say, just let it go. What I try to focus on, man, is, again, I try to focus on building strong relationships based on mutual interests, based on friendship, based on admiration for skills and knowledge and abilities, KSAs. This is the basis of how you make America great again, not dividing it in half, pitting the countrymen against each other, talking about football issues while you, and when I say you, I mean the politicians of both sides, steal people's money, time, effort, and labor to go run off on fool's errands overseas to do stuff which, if they do fight back, who is going to actually get hurt by this? Trump ain't going to get blew up. Joe Biden ain't going to get blown up. They ain't going to attack him. They're going to be blowing our legs and arms off. They're going to be killing our budgets, making us unable to balance our home budgets because everything is so high. That's who faces the consequences. You and me, regular people, we face the consequences of these fools' errands. And what does that make us if we keep electing these fools? If we keep squabbling over stuff that ain't even got nothing to do with us. This stuff, they don't squabble. They squabble on TV because they want to get that cheddar for their party or for their team or for themselves and their family. They want to get their kids on the board of Burisma, they crackhead son who own a computer doing crack and hookers, if you know what I'm saying. But somehow is on the board of a Ukrainian oil company making $80,000 a month with no qualifications whatsoever. That's what they are fighting over. They're not fighting for you or me. And like I say, don't be feeling like it's all one party. Kyle Rabel, who we interviewed on this show, had a piece in the Avalanche Journal talking about what happened to make America great. Yeah, I agree. But Kyle Rabel is pointing out Trump's faults, but he's not pointing out Democrats' faults. Because Barack Hussein Obama, who Democrats love, or used to love anyway, I don't know if they love him anymore, he's the one that overthrew Libya for absolutely no reason. Colonel Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, the ruler of Libya at the time, literally gave up his weapons of mass destruction. Some of y'all may not remember that. You're too young, wasn't paying attention. Go back and look it up. He let weapons inspectors come in and verify that he ain't got no more weapons of mass destruction. Here they all are. Y'all can have them. And you know what happened? Soon as we got him, we was like, thank you, Colonel Gaddafi, for taking the bold step of relinquishing your weapons of mass destruction. Thank you so much. You're really a statesman. Get him, boys. Went in there and overthrew him just like that. So in other words, Iran would be fools to give up they WMDs if they got them. If they actually are trying to make them, they would be fools not to make them. Because when you don't have them is when you get your country invaded. If you got that big stick, you can tell everybody, hey, back up. Y'all better ease back, boy. You see these missiles I got back here. You see them tips on the missiles? Yeah, y'all know what it is. But you ain't got them WMDs. They'll run right over you. Went in there, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Valerie Jarrett, went in there, overthrew that dude, unleashed chaos in Libya. From what I understand, there was literally slavery after they overthrew Colonel Gaddafi. There was literal slave auctions again. He was a strong man, true, but we overthrew him after he said, I'm sorry for any terrorism that I may have sponsored. Here's all my weapons of mass destruction. But why'd they do that? From my understanding, reading the newspapers and the articles back in the day, they said it was 2011, I think, 12 or whatever it was. They were saying that Colonel Gaddafi was unifying Africa and trying to make a Pan-African central bank that was backed by gold, where the currency was backed by gold. You can't have that. Central banks make money off of controlling the interest and credit of a country. They make you, founding father said that. Who was it? Was it Jefferson or Washington or one of them, Adams, said that if you allow a central bank to be installed in the United States, first by inflation and then by deflation, They will deprive the people of all their currency and credit, and you will wake up slaves in the country that your forefathers founded. Talking about Juneteenth and being slaves, let's talk about really being slaves. When a central bank, which is not federal, it's private, meaning private individuals own the U.S. central bank, own all central banks, by the way. They're all interconnected too, the way I understand. These are the forces that foment war. These are the forces that give countries the ability to wage war, because without a central bank, the country would have to tax its citizens and crush them under heavy taxes to wage war. But with a central bank, they just print money. Now, you don't see it at first until you start seeing that inflation, which is theft, by the way. Inflation is the worst form of tax because it's an invisible, slow form of tax that you wake up one day and your money doesn't buy what it used to, and you can't figure out why. It happens because the central banks print money when the country is not matching the production. If the country increased its production output and produced goods and services along with that money, the prices would stay relatively stable. But because you're working at this level still, but they're printing this much money, that causes inflation. That's theft. What is it when you work, when somebody forcibly makes you work, but you don't get the output from your own labor? Slavery, folks. It's called slavery. So we talking about Juneteenth and being free and the first 4 lessons of freedom. Think about that. All this military adventurism, all this money printing, all this crazy stuff that they doing with the money that we don't really want them to do. Both sides doing it. That's called slavery. So as we talk about Juneteenth and freedom and the first 4 principles of freedom, first 4 lessons of freedom, before I let y'all see that clip, hopefully y'all like it. Think about that. Are we really free? We really free walking around with slave trackers in our pockets? I done seen people, man. I seen people committing crime but can't put their cell phone down. I done seen people running for their life out of fire but got their cell phone. Like, you won't put that down, will you? Back in the days, they used to say slaves couldn't travel without papers. Now they don't say that because we voluntarily carry our papers and trackers around with us. Talking about Juneteenth, we free now. Are we though? I don't know. I tend to say probably not. Anyway, LBK, that's what I got for you today. But before I sign completely off, I just want to say, watch this little speech that I gave at Patterson on the opening ceremony of the Juneteenth celebrations, actually on Juneteenth, this past Thursday. So peep it out. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments down there. And man, hope y'all. You know what? I wish y'all peace, and I wish there would be peace in the Middle East. Maybe if we stop giving money to both sides, there might be a little peace. All right. Talking of peace, let me say it. 2 digits and I'm out.
Hello. Can I please get your attention? You all look so beautiful today. Thank you all so much for coming out. So the Lubbock Juneteenth Committee is excited to announce the full schedule for the 2025 Juneteenth celebration taking place June 19th and the 21st. This year's theme is Rise Up Weekend, which brings our community together through vibrant series of events that honor Black history, culture, and freedom. The committee encourages all to participate in this celebration of the resilient human spirit with activities for all ages. The celebration includes live music, wellness initiatives, youth programming, and more, all free and open to the public. I first want to thank our leading sponsors, which are HEB, United, Lamar, Leprino, and Star Care. And I also want to thank Coach Krista Gerlich and Coach Jada Williams and Coach Adrian Walters with the Texas Tech Lady Raiders basketball for being here with us today. And I would love to thank, this is not all of our committee. We are small, but we work very, very hard. I would ask that our committee please stand, the Juneteenth Committee. And Of course, I did tell you my name. My name is McPherson, and I am one of the co-chairs to this year's Juneteenth celebration, and I will turn it over to Cory Powell, my co-chair.
Thank you, Duana. I paid her for that. But we are really excited to have all of you here. As was mentioned, this is a celebration that is to be for everybody, regardless of age and stage, regardless of ethnicity, political affiliation. This is a community event. It's a celebration of freedom. We understand the importance of Juneteenth as it relates to those of us who are of African descent and all of us as a human collective, that Juneteenth celebrates when we in Texas learned in 1865, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, that we indeed were free. And so this is an annual celebration. It's been a part of the Lubbock community for a number of years, decades in fact. And so we've had different iterations of committees, but we're so thankful to be able to offer this celebration, and we're looking forward to all of you coming out. We'll go through the schedule so you'll know what it is I'm going to read so as not to leave anything off. As you know, we're here in the library, and we're so thankful to Teresa Wilson and the library staff for allowing us to have this event here. Following the press conference, there will be refreshments, and there are some activities for our kids, and we're so grateful to see all of these young future leaders present. Tonight from 5 to 8 right here at the Patterson Branch Library, it's a glow-in-the-dark party, an evening for youth featuring silent disco, silent reading lounge, glow-in-the-dark games, and the dance-off, all hosted by our friends here at the library. So encouraging y'all to come out for that. And then on Saturday, for our seniors 62 years old and older, we have our annual senior breakfast, which takes place at the May Simmons Community Center. It's hosted by my brothers and sisters keepers, and it's a free breakfast that honors the elders of our community and starts the day off with community connection. They'll have some door prizes and some giveaways for them, so please share that information as well. Then at 10 a.m., the United Supermarkets Parade will begin at Avenue A and go east on Broadway, turning right on Canyon Lakes Drive, and ending across 19th at Rock Solid Fitness. It is free. We want you to come out. There will be lots of good things going on, vibrant displays of floats and music and dancing, local groups and organizations. The parade grand marshal will be former Red Raider football standout Tony Bradford, who is now a DPS trooper. Fan favorite Raider Red will be in the parade, along with the Lady Raider basketball team and staff. So we're so glad to have y'all out as well. There are various categories and awards that will be given out for those who participate in the parade. And then immediately following the parade at 11:30 a.m. in McKenzie Main City Park, which used to be McKenzie State Park. I still want to say that, Sheila, but I guess it's not that anymore. It's a family-friendly event all day from 11:30 to 4 p.m. Leprino Foods is sponsoring the kids zones. There are air jumpers and all those kind of activities for the kids, including some water activity. Parents, it will be supervised activities for your kids. The Star Care Health Fair, health is wealth, and so there will be screening opportunities and educational activities as well going on in the Star Care Health Fair. Reliant is sponsoring ice cream eating contest. Yeah, I like that, huh? That goes on around 12:30. Atmos Energy has our cooling station. It's going to be warm. We'll have free water, courtesy of our friends at United, an opportunity to stay cool. There's information fair. There are food vendors and vendors who will be selling different products, as well as other things that you can purchase. Then we have live music, a band all the way from Shreveport, Louisiana, Musicology. The band will be performing. And Sheila, one year we did not include gospel, and about 72 of our seniors in the community caught me. And they said, "Baby, don't forget the Lord." Never want that to happen. So Gospel Hour will feature Alicia Mack, who is an awesome praise and worship leader and singer from Houston, Texas. She'll take the stage at 2:30. Then we take a break from 4 to 7, and we want you back in the park at 7 p.m. Bring your lawn chairs, bring your blankets. We will have a wonderful opportunity with food vendors again, high energy opportunity. For those of you who see these dances that everybody's doing and you want to learn how to do those line dances, we have somebody coming in to teach you the line dances. So bring your fans. Yeah, bring your fans. That's from 7 to 8. 7 to 8, we'll have opportunity, and we have a list. I think she's going to teach between 5 and 7 dances. And that gets you ready for the DJ that we have coming in all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, DJ Executive, who will take us all the way to the HEB fireworks show, which will begin at 9:45 p.m. So very good, fun day, a whole lot of activities going on. We encourage you to come out, be comfortable. We will have some Juneteenth hats for sale. And we were hoping we'd have the shirts today to show you, but we have some wonderful t-shirts that will also be available for purchase. All of the information that I just shared is on our website, lubbockjuneteenth.com. You can follow us on social media, Lubbock Juneteenth. We look forward to you being there. Thank you again for your time and your attention. Again, thanks to Teresa and the staff here. Thanks again to the committee. Some other members of the committee walked in. We look forward to seeing you all out this weekend. Have a great one. So refreshments, and then the kids area for painting and things of that nature. Yes, Teresa.
We have Robert James. He's going to say something.
Okay, come on.
Y'all excuse that little delay. I had to get the camera focused on me. Ain't nobody back there running it now. So, yeah. So how y'all feeling on this official Juneteenth kickoff? Y'all feeling good? Y'all good? Good. I am too. You know the other name for Juneteenth is Freedom Day, right? So when Teresa Wilson, branch manager here at Patterson, asked me to come out and say a couple things, I was thinking to myself, what am I going to say? Everybody kind of knows the story of Juneteenth by now. What can I say that would be worth saying? So as I was looking back, doing a little bit of research, I looked at the primary sources, the order itself, the executive order, order number 3, that General Gordon Granger read off to the people there in Galveston. And when I was reading it, the last sentence caught my attention. I say, oh, yeah, that's a lesson right there. That's one. And I was reading this book right here at the same time. It's by Zora Neale Hurston. Y'all know her, Their Eyes Are Watching God. This is another one of her books, not so well known. It's called Barracoon, the story of the last black cargo. And what this is, one of the last few people to be sold in Africa and shipped over here into slavery, small group of people. This is the story of one of those gentlemen. So she sat down with him in like 1929 and got his whole story. And when I was reading that, I saw a couple other things, and I say, that's about 4 things. You put them all together, that's what you might even call them the first 4 lessons of freedom. So that's what I'm gonna talk about real quick. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. I know they got hot dogs or something out there. So let me pull out my electronics like these kids do. And I'm gonna look at this executive order. So General Gordon Granger pulled up and he read the following to the people that were assembled there in Galveston. He said, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them now becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freed are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages." This is the part that caught my attention. All that was interesting, but this is what really caught my attention. He said, "They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect or gather at military posts, and that they will not be supported in idleness, either there or anywhere else." And I said, that sounded like a lesson right there. So the first lesson of freedom, or the 4 lessons of freedom that I gleaned doing my little research, the first lesson is you will not be allowed to be idle and get supported. So in other words, the government, you might have thought freedom came from the government, but what came from the government was the announcement, the proclamation. After that, they basically said, y'all free, now get. That's the first lesson. True freedom might not come from the government. So going to this book right here, Barracoon, the story of the last black cargo. Again, this was a grown man that was sold in Africa. So he remembers being free in Africa and owning land and stuff like that. And then he got shipped over here and was enslaved for about 6 years. Then he was freed. So he remembers being a slave, being free, being a slave, and then being free. So he said they were out unloading some cargo off of a ship. And some Union soldiers saw him on the banks, and they said, hey, you guys, y'all ain't got to do that no more. Y'all free. And he said him and his compatriots was like, all right, word. So they put the stuff down and came onto the shore. And the first thing they realized was, wait a minute, we can't go back to the place that we just lived. We have no place to go. That's what they said. You can't collect around these military posts. So they said, well, let's go ask Captain Tom Mayer, who was their owner, if you can own a human being. Let's go ask him, since we worked this land for all these years, let's go talk to him and see, hey, can you give us this land for free? Since we worked it for you for 6 years? Captain Tom looked at him and said, he literally said, quote, you a fool. Said, you think I'm going to give you property on top of property? You was my property, now I ain't got that, and you think I'm going to give you land too? Laughed in his face. So the second lesson that I gleaned from that was, the first lesson, you can't necessarily expect freedom from the government. You can't also expect freedom from your former oppressor. So the next thing, Cujo, this gentleman's name that was enslaved in America, his name was Cujo Lewis. The next thing they did, it's warm in here, man. Or maybe I'm nervous, I don't know. So the second lesson was you can't necessarily expect freedom from your former oppressor, right? So the third lesson, him and his boys, they said, well, let's go back and talk to the group and see what we're going to do. And they said, I know what we can do. It just so happened that there was a ton of other black people that were already enslaved in the United States at the farm that they was on. So they said, well, let's go ask them if they'll help us get some land and do all this stuff that we need to do to take advantage of our freedom. So they went and asked those people, and guess what the African Americans, I guess you would say, told them? They said, y'all some ignorant savages. Y'all crazy in the mug. You think we're going to help you? Laughed at them. I say, man, that sounds like a lesson. So I guess the third lesson is don't expect help in being free from people who look like you. So that's 3 of the 4 first lessons of freedom. The fourth, and I'm going to try to be real quick. I know y'all hungry. The fourth lesson, they looked at each other and said, man, we done went to the government. They ain't going to give us. Went to Captain. He ain't going to do it. Went to the other black people that was already here. They ain't going to do it. They said, you know what we got to do? We're going to have to buckle down, work hard, save all our money up, and buy our own land and build our own houses on it and plant our own crops. So that's what they did. He said they ate molasses and bread for ain't no telling how long, weeks, months. They got up a huge sum of money, which, back in those days was a huge sum. Went to Captain Tom and said, hey, now can you sell us this land? And of course he said, oh yeah, sure can. And Cujo says, by the way, he says, and Captain Tom didn't even discount it 5 cents. He wanted the whole price. So they gave him the money, got the land. They immediately divided it up. Cujo got 1.5 acres. They helped each other build their own homes. They helped each other plant crops. Next thing you know, they're blooming and flowering in place. Fourth lesson there to me was you don't ask other people for freedom. You got to go out and work and make it happen, Captain. That's a saying that I always tell my family. You got to make it happen, Captain. You got to get out there and do it. And then there's one other thing. That's the 4 lessons of freedom, the first 4 lessons of freedom. Another one of the lessons was this is a bonus lesson, after they got everything squared away and got their houses built and everything was kind of going good, then another brother that was free already named Free George, I love how they just name him, he's free, so he's Free George. Free George had a business of some sort, and he was already kind of making some money and getting it going. So then, after they got their thing going,
That's when Free George came over there and helped him out also. And I said, maybe the bonus lesson is once you are making moves towards your own freedom, other people that have the like minds will gather with you and help you. So y'all, I ain't gonna take up too much more time. Thank y'all for listening. This has been the first 4 lessons of freedom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Refreshment time. Please enjoy yourself, help yourself. There's hot dogs outside and there's activities for the kids.